Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast, we're chatting with a guy who has traveled the world in search of the perfect steak. Hey family, hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. This is episode 131 of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast, and today we're chatting with Dane Cowan from Smoke and Steel Barbecue in South Australia. Now, before we get into that, I've just got a couple of announcements that I want to run by you. The first is that this episode is proudly brought to you by Jagged Wood-Fired over in WA. So if you're looking for your new smoker, barbecue, grill, Perilla, they do all sorts of stuff, custom work. They do some beautiful custom kitchen installs. Hit up Jules and Glenn. They do some fantastic work. They ship all around the nation, and they also have some fantastic steak presses. If you've seen some of my videos and photos with the steaks, that's what I use. It's great gear. So big thanks to them for proudly being a podcast partner for this episode. The second is that we have our free mini ebook available for you over on the Smoking Hot Confessions website. If you're at the start of your barbecue journey, this is going to be perfect for you. It's the beginner's guide to real barbecue. So we start outlining what low and slow barbecue is and give you a few ideas of your first or second couple of cracks at having cook-ups. So head on over to the website, smokinghotconfessions.com, have a bit of a click around, bit of a scroll around. A pop-up window is going to appear. Put your details into that and we'll shoot that through to your inbox for you. The next one is that we do have the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community over on Facebook. If you're looking for a barbecue group that is just about barbecue, I know, wild idea, then this is the group for you. So it's one of the nicest corners on the of the internet. We do aim to keep it that way. And if you're looking for somewhere to just hang out and just chat about barbecue, that is the best place for you to be. All right, and the last one is that if you are watching this video on YouTube, do give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, and hit that little notification bell. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a like and a share. And if you've got any comments, any questions you want to ask either myself or Dane, pop them in the comments and we'll make sure that we answer them for you. If you're watching on IGTV, give us one of those cute little hearts and a follow so you get notified of all our IGTV videos. Whew, almost couldn't get that out. And then if you are, of course, listening on a podcast app, do give us a 5-star rating and a review because that helps drive us up the charts and helps Apple to expose our show to more potential listeners. So that would very much help us out. We would very much appreciate it. All right, so now today's episode. As I did say at the top, we are chatting with Dane Cowan from Smoke and Steel, and you'll remember him from when I was at Fat Trip last year, and I did misname him. I called him Dane Cowan, so I'm being very clear. It is Dane Cowan. D-A-N-E, Dane. He hasn't let me live that down either. He'll probably give it to me a bit later on in the episode too. Dane and Smoke and Steel are long-term competitors both in the ABA and the SCA. They are, with his teammate Jesse Donamura, they became the Australian SCA champs, and they've represented Australia in Texas not once, but twice at the SCA World Championships. So if you're into cooking steaks and all the different ancillaries, this is definitely going to be a great app for you. So that's probably about enough from me. Let's get Dane in here.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Alrighty, Dane, welcome to the confessional, my friend. How are you today?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Mate, busy. It's a really hot day up here. I've just been working out in the yard, been digging up some old pavers and knocking the concrete off and pulling plants out. And yeah, it's really hot, really hot.
Well, it never ends in the garden, mate. Never ends.
It doesn't. That's the beauty and the curse of having gardens, I suppose.
I'm on a pretty large block here, and it's never ending. Mowing lawns, pulling weeds, changing plants. As you can see, I've got a massive tree here behind me that drops its leaves in March, April, and there's probably about 1 million leaves on there. I've got to vacuum up and mow up, and you know the kids think it's fun running through the leaves that they're flying down on the ground around them, but really it's meant it's going to clean the mess up. So.
Well, as soon as they're big enough and strong enough to hold that blower, I know what their job's going to be.
Pocket money. That's how they
Yeah. All right, so let's kick things off. Tell me, what was the last thing that you barbecued?
I made some burgers on Friday. I did an In-N-Out double style burger, which is pretty good. But the last time I fired up the smoker, I made a big platter. I did some Brahman hump pastrami and like a chicken half.
Wow.
And some pulled pork and then some biscuits and stuff with it. And yeah, I'm kind of into making Texas style barbecue platters at the moment.
I've noticed some of your pictures there. They're looking really like bang on. They're looking mint.
Thanks, mate. It's I get a bit of an idea, a bit of a vision, and sit down and fire up the drums and cook a few things and get some mates around and give a bit of a feed. So it's good.
So speaking of the drums, are they your favorite? Are they your favorite rig to use?
Look, for ease, they are. So they're just a couple of homemade 44-gallon drums with Weber lids on them. It's what we made and what we cook on for comp. But as far as sort of ease and smoking goes, they're probably my favourite to use. But I've also got, an offset, about 50 million Webers and an Acorn Kamado and some GAs and whatever. So, you can't really pick a favourite. It's like a kid. But if I need to do some work around the garden, I fire up the drum and let that sort of do its thing.
Yeah. Get a lot done in the meantime. I can see a little GA over your shoulder there behind you. And you mentioned that you got a whole bunch of Webers. What's the most sort of rare or unique Weber that you've got?
Probably my burgundy GA. I've got a colour GA, a burgundy one. That's in my study on the top shelf. In Pride and Place. They're quite expensive and hard to get. Yeah, straight to the pool room. I have had a few other rare ones. I picked up a Chief at one stage, which I swapped with a mate for another colour GA. Chief's a brown 26-inch Weber from like 1979.
Oh, wow.
There's probably only about maybe less than 10 in the country. So, I've had a couple of rare ones come through my hands, but my current rarest one would probably be that burgundy one.
Nice. And had it been cooked on before, or was it a brand new one in a box that just no one had opened?
Definitely not a brand new uncooked one. It's just it's been used. It's got a couple of chips on the enamel, but it's just character for it. It's still a burgundy GA. There's not that many around,
No, I haven't seen too many of them at all. I don't think.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool.
That's just a little grill station there behind us. That's my little wine barrel that I take my photos on and use my GA. That's where it lives. So
it's perfect height for it. Yeah. So, man, tell me about the SA barbecue scene. How's things going down there?
Well, we've got a pretty good little scene and good little community down here. Everyone seems to sort of band together and help each other out, and we're all a friendly bunch. There's not that many people in South Australia compared to the other states, and so everyone kind of knows everybody. And we've got a bunch of butchers and people that are into helping everyone out and get the cuts. And if someone's like, oh, I live in Tea Tree Plaza and I want to find a brisket, everyone's like, oh, there's a butcher here and there's a butcher there, and they'll get it in for you. We've also got a couple of people making rubs down here too, like Tom. You've spoke to Tom recently, and Cole from Rub and Grub, and everyone seems to sort of get around them. South Australia sort of support South Australians, and we've got the 2016 ABA champ Craig from Suck Knuckle down here too, and he just released his new rub too recently, I think. So he's out there helping people out, and it's pretty good. And obviously, Grant Hollywood, Neil, who doesn't know Grant. We've got a pretty good scene. Old Rob Moyer, who runs 4 comps for us a year down here too, doesn't sort of impede that growth of the barbecue down here. So all in all, it's pretty healthy. It's pretty good down here.
Yeah, I have noticed that that the South Australian scene doesn't seem to be nearly as shall we say factional as some of the other states. Like, you all just seem to get along and back each other, and you seem to have your eyes focused on a wider scene than just what's happening in your city or just what's happening in your suburb. Or
everyone tries to help everyone out, and that's the South Australian way. I think because we are so isolated from the rest of the states, it's nearly 1,000 kilometres to Melbourne. That's a day's drive, and we're all here stuck in the middle together. You kind of got to live with each other, and there's only 1.2 million people in the whole state. So, that's probably a suburb in Melbourne, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So everyone sort of helps each other out and bands together, and we've got a couple. We've also had quite a few amateur comps. I think there's one coming up this month that helps sort of grow that scene as well, getting new, fresh people in, giving them a taste before they want to delve into the rest of it. And it's all right. I think that Up in Smoke this year, had 40-something teams, which is not bad for little Adelaide. So
yeah, I think that I was there last year, 2019. I went down for Up in Smoke. I think there was maybe 32 or 33. So that's been sort of growing in consecutive years.
There was 48 that year.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. All right. I do apologise.
48. So it's 48 that year. I remember you were down here. You called my dad Ian Moss.
Oh, was that your dad? Well, he really did look like Ian Moss.
It's actually quite offensive to him because he thinks he's Jimmy Barnes.
Oh. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, not awesome, but that's funny. That's funny as. All right. So tell us how you got into barbecue. Was it Jimmy Moss that got you into barbecue?
Nah, so Jimmy Barnes just used to burn the barbie, and my parents weren't really into food. You know, mum grew up in the country, so she just cooked a bit of sort of home style food, and dad just burnt the barbie. When I moved out of home, I kind of liked eating food and going to Thai restaurants in the city, and because I live so far away, I sort of decided to start learning how to cook Asian food, and I went and travelled through a bit of Asia, and so I was cooking Asian food at home for quite a few years, and then I decided, I want to maybe start looking into Mexican. And so I was looking into Mexican food, and obviously you look into Mexico, you see Texas and Tex-Mex, and I've seen barbecue there. And I've been cooking on the Weber for a few years, just roasts and skewers and whatever. I had a little stainless steel satay griller as well that I used to fire up for that kind of stuff. And also been involved in an annual ham cook using the Webers for a few years as well. And then so I gave the low and slow a try in the Weber. And then that sort of didn't, trying to get the steak method to work was a bit of a pain. So I went and bought a Smoky Mountain, and then I'm sort of researching online and found the ABA in 2013, 2014. So it was only very small then, and sort of started watching there, and eventually just kept on buying more barbecues. Had to go and beg the butchers down here to get me stuff, and wood chunks weren't available, so I was going to the orchards, and my uncle had some almond trees I was taking cuttings from and whatever to get smoke wood, and eventually I got on the Instagram, and then met Grant and Craig somehow, and then through meeting them and hanging out with them for a little bit, they conned me into getting a competition barbecue. I ended up jumping on the smoking joint with Grant in 2016. So
wow,
yeah,
right in there with barbecue royalty,
hanging out with barbecue royalty. Yeah, so Craig and Grant had just gone the year before to America through the Weber thing they won together and competed over there in St. Louis, and then Craig just sort of come around and told me, look, we've got a barbecue comp happening here in June, and you should give it a go. And I was going to give it a go on my own, and then I rang Grant to find out what I needed to buy, and he said, just jump on TSJ. So I did.
So what was that experience like?
Well, so we went and I did this, we obviously did the first Up in Smoke in 2016, and at that time it was Grant, Damo, Chad Andrew from Sydney. He sort of worked with Hillbilly Wes at Bovine and Swine. He was part of our team. He flew down, and I jumped on the team, and we cooked together, and we ended up getting a second place brisket. So, it's always good to get a call up, and I made a heap of new friends, and I had an absolute ball. And then we sort of had a bit of a chat group on Messenger after that, and Chad wanted to do the first winging competition, the Smoke in the Valley, 2016. I think it was in October. And Grant and Damo couldn't make it, and he asked me if I wanted to fly up and do it with him. So I ended up flying up there 2 months later and cooking with Chad on our own at the Smoke in the Valley, and met a lot of the big guys now. Guys that are good mates of mine, like Dan White from Country Boys, and obviously Rach, the Shank sisters were there, and we were next to Scotch and Smoke as well. So I've become good friends with Nick and Brad and the lads, and once you start getting in and making friends and enjoying it, it just seems to snowball from there, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's hard to say no to the next competition when you've had so much fun at the one before. Definitely.
Obviously see your friends that you made last time, especially around the country. It's good. No, we had a good time with them. We ended up on the smoking joint, obviously 2017 Meat Stock Melbourne. We ended up winning the first SCA competition in Australia, the first Steak Cookoff. Didn't even know what we were getting ourselves into. It's a bit of a funny story how that happened. We hadn't booked in to do it. We went to the briefing, everyone left, and I was chatting to someone, and Grant came up and said, I just bought into the steak comp, you got to pick 2 steaks. And I was like, what? Picked these 2 steaks, didn't do any ancillaries. Thought we'd bombed it. I had the ticket in my pocket and went to the grandstand, and Grant and the other guys were like, "Oh, we're just going to go start trimming the meat because we need to get started." And stand there, and our name got called out first. So if you see the video, I was actually like waving my hand at the guys at the other end of the arena to come and join me on stage, because I was standing up there on my own going, "Holy crap, we just won steak. We're going to Texas." So yeah, it was great.
That's cool, man. That's cool. And so at what point then did you break off and become Smoke and Steel?
So look, as I said, I was going to do my own thing in the beginning, from talking to Craig, and then Grant sort of got me on, and it was sort of like the end of 2017. We had a great time at TSJ and been up to the Invitational, and I think we finished second in Australia on the leaderboard that year, 2017 TSJ. And I was just out for dinner with Jesse, and I was talking to another mate, and I said, look, Jesse was only judging at that time. I didn't think he had any aspirations to start a team. I was sort of thinking about maybe doing my own thing next year, just dabbing me toe to see if I can hold it on my own. And he said, "I'm in, count me in." So me, Jesse, and Danny end up starting up Smoke and Steel. Danny's since gone back to racing downhill mountain bikes, so not mountain bikes, gravity bikes. So he has this other thing. He couldn't do 2 hobbies, and he really wanted to get back to his fabrication. So Jesse and I just carried on with Dad washing our dishes. So.
If you're looking for your next barbecue smoker or grill, Jagged Wood Fired has got what you need. Owners Julianne and Glenn are multiple award-winning barbecue competitors who've even travelled to the US to compete at the World Barbecue Championships in Houston, Texas. Based out of Perth and shipping nationwide, Jagged is one of the largest pit builders in the country and has an ever-growing lineup of meat cooking machinery. Not only do they have their now famous smoker ovens, their incredibly efficient gravity-fed cabinets are proving extremely popular in commercial settings, and they also make some of the most stylish asado grills you're ever going to see. Jagged is also well known for amazingly detailed custom work ranging from backyard designs all the way to installations in commercial kitchens. Proudly Australian designed, owned and manufactured, you can find out more at jaggedwoodfired.com.au. spelled Jagrd. Once again, head to jaggedwoodfired.com.au, spelled Jagrd, to learn more.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
Alrighty now, Dane. So I thought we might have a bit of a quick chat for maybe some listeners who might not be familiar of the ABA and the SCA. So could you start off with a quick summary for the new audience members of what those what all those letters mean, what they are?
So the ABA stands for the Australasian Barbecue Alliance, and they're the main body that runs barbecue competitions here in in Australia. They primarily use the cuts like brisket, like beef, pork, ribs, chicken, and also lamb. Plus, I think they have other like chef choice categories they can put on, and they're the ones where you start cooking the night before, and then you cook overnight, and you sort of hand in the next day. Long cooks, lots of fun, but lots of time and outlay to them. I think if you GC an ABA comp, you get an invitation to the Royal in Kansas. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens with that sort of thing. Or it might be they might have to have certain proteins in there for you to get that invitation. Whereas the SCA stands for the Steak Cookoff Association, and that's sort of run by Brett Galloway and Ken Phillips, and they're sort of started from Texas. And all it is mainly, it's all about the steak. So it's just a one-day setup. You pick your steaks, you cook them, you hand them in. They also have ancillaries on the side to help sort of fill the day in. It's actually quite surprising. Over in America, they seem to only have maybe 1 or 2 ancillaries for the day. It's all about the steak. Where here in Australia, I think you'll find a lot of competitions are doing 4 ancillaries plus the steaks to sort of fill up that Saturday. So it's quite exciting, and you can be like very creative with the ancillaries, like hot dogs and burgers and wings or fried chicken, oysters. Pretty much, if you want to cook an ancillary and give it to Brett and Ken, they will write rules for it.
Yeah. I've seen some of the things that they that these competitors come up with for these ancillaries, and the creativity is just madness. You mentioned meat in Horsham there before when I was there last year. The things that I was photographing in the judges' room there was just nuts, absolutely insane.
Yeah, I find though there's like a limit of like, do you spend $200 on a hand-in to possibly win $100 for first place, you know, and all this time and effort, you know, or do you kind of try and work your way around it, you know? So
yeah, sure.
Look, it's all a bit of fun, you know, it obviously breaks up the day, and it obviously gets the creative juices flowing. Also, it's good for the judges as well, so they're not just eating brisket and pork and ribs all the time. They're getting, you know, fried chicken and hot dogs and desserts and, you know, all sorts. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to judge an SCA, but so many of the hand-ins come through with chocolate, and I can't eat chocolate, so I just have to stand there and watch.
It's we'll see, like for bacon for sheep stock, which was meant to be meat stock, we made these salted maple bacon truffles. You know,
wow.
So yeah, so like just little chocolate dobs with salt on them and maple bacon, and we actually, instead of using butter in there, we used bacon fat, rendered bacon fat. So it was just bacon
so
on top
good.
of bacon. Yeah, it's good.
Man, that sounds amazing.
You could probably do some of the burger hand-ins and whatever. You can, as long as it's just chocolate, you can just sort of skip some of it. So
yeah, I can't eat cheese either.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, I get classical hemispherical migraines, and if I get one of them, that's it. I'm out for 2 days.
Yeah, no. Well,
so
maybe don't judge SCA. Just take photos of it for everyone.
Yeah, just stare there and just photograph it and just feel jealous. So tell us a bit about your record with each organisation. So we know you've already done really well with SCA. Give us a bit of an idea about how you've been going with the ABA side of things.
So the ABA, our first year as Smoke and Still, I think we come 24th in the leaderboard. We had some pretty good results. Obviously, not every category we're strong in. Lamb's definitely one that we kind of struggle with. But then in our second year in 2019, we managed to get the grand champion at Up and Smoke. And then a few other pretty good results, a fourth at Fat Trip, which was pretty good. And we ended up finishing 13th on the leaderboard, which, you know, as I said to Jesse in the beginning, if we can finish in the top 20 at any stage, I'm over the moon. You know, it's hard. We only do about 5 comps a year. Which obviously, you know, because we're so distant, which obviously reduces our chances of, you know, getting those points to someone that maybe can do 10 to 12 or even upwards from that. You know, it's a bit hard here. We've tried doing the drive to New South Wales, but it's just too hard. It's just too far to drive. Yeah,
if it's 1,000 k's just to Melbourne, it's probably 2,000 on a diagonal up to Sydney or something. So
I think it's 1,600. It's about 2 days of driving, you know, and people do say, you know, fly in, fly out, but I'm a stickler for everything being in its place and having all my stuff, you know, like you come past my tent, everything's got a spot, it's got a place, it's all set out right, you know, so I just couldn't do fly in, fly out. If I turned around and didn't have something I needed at a crucial point, I'd probably have a coronary, you know, so.
I believe that's called a stickler for detail.
Yeah.
Some people call it anal retentive.
OCD.
Yeah. Hey, look, if there's ever going to be a place where OCD is going to help you, it's going to be in competition barbecue.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you mentioned that you got in Up in Smoke earlier this year, 2020. Were you able to get in any more comps before COVID shut everything down?
No, we had Up in Smoke, which we didn't have a very good one this year. We kind of bombed in that one. I think home maybe, I don't know, 13th or 14th or something. Had a couple of dramas, as you do sometimes, and then obviously we drove over to Melbourne for the meat stock, and we were there early and we were setting up our spot, and then Jay came out and said, "Well, sorry guys, it's not happening." So we managed to have a chat with everybody, and there was a bit of ground movement, so we managed to get sheep stock in. So everyone drove down, and cooked down at old Sheepdog's house, and which was quite a good event. Because those guys had flown over from America to compete. There were some of the best in America over here for that. So luckily, I'm pretty sure Jack's Creek or whoever it was gave the steaks to us to cook, and they, because there was less teams, we had a double steak in Sheepdog's backyard, and they scrounged for judges and whatever, and just sort of made it happen. It was actually pretty good. I wish we could do it all again.
So that was actually like a valid round of the SCA.
Yep, 100% points and everything. Yep,
that's so good.
Yeah, it'll go down in history as one of the fastest made comps of all time. You know, so
yeah. And what is 2021 looking like so far?
Well, look, I've no idea. I'd like to hope we had the comps again. Really, obviously Jesse and I will do whatever we can. You know, if it's in the local area here, or if Victoria end up pulling themselves out and they sort of open up a bit more, we'll head to meat stock. Jay's already put in a date for meat stock and said whoever paid last year can come next year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But obviously with their current situation, that could move either way. I've got no idea. We'll probably still focus more on ABA again. So after 2018 on 2019, we didn't want to chase the SCA points because we'd already had that. Already accomplished what we chose for that. If we can get another trip over to America to compete, then it'd be great. We just want to focus on the ABA and just use the SCA as sort of an add-on. We're not going to go, traveling to Melbourne just for an SCA competition or whatever, unless we, really want to, or we hanging for something. Obviously, if sheep stock was on again, we'd probably zoom over for that. We're probably going to try and focus on ABA again, just try and solidify ourselves in that. We're changing a few sort of ways that we do things. We've been practicing a little bit in the break and tried a few things, and hopefully they sort of work out in the end. Lamb for us absolutely sucks. It's probably our Achilles heel, so we're trying to work on that at the moment. We've got some tips from some good friends, and we're trying some things there, and hopefully we can make that work. Next year, if and when the comps start up.
Yeah, well, I got my fingers crossed for you, man, that you can get stuck in there and get back into it as soon as possible. Now, we've been sort of skirting around it, so let's get into it. 2 trips to Texas for SCA. Tell us about that.
Well, the first one obviously was with TSJ. So we were the first Australian team to win golden tickets and go over there. So we had no idea what we were getting into. Flew over
always
there.
the best way to go into it.
Oh yeah, and also everyone knows Grants and Damo like to have a good time. Flew over there and they had the international welcome party that we'd never been, never heard of or whatever. So that time was actually at Ken's house. So Ken Phillips is this massive house that's on about 5 acres. All the international teams were there. We're meeting, chatting with people from Germany and all the Dutch people and all sorts there. And and quite a lot of the bigger sort of named American guys came there and whatever. So we all had a big feed and some beers and whatever at Ken's house on the Thursday, and then the next night, the Friday night, they did the introduction. So everyone gets called on stage, and we won the furthest travelled, obviously, because we travelled from Australia, and that was a bit of a big night. And then you got to be at the site at 7 o'clock the next morning to set up. They supplied us with all the stuff, and it was great. Everyone was just so welcoming. I made so many friends that year that I still keep in contact with now. Like Bill and Pam Mann, Jimmy Parsons, Mark Huntley, who's been doing real well over there this year and last year. Everyone was just giving me all this information, which obviously then I brought home from that year. So when I decided to start my own thing the next year, all I wanted to do was get back over there. I had heard a whisper that they were doing a points ring if we had enough comps. I think they said there 4 or 5 comps here for it to qualify. So I was like, you know what, boys, to Jesse and Dan, I'm like, let's chase this. Cool ABA, let's have a good time, but let's chase this SCA thing. So we ended up, obviously in that second year, we had Meat Stock Melbourne where we came 12th, which I nearly cried. And then we went to Meat and came 3rd. And I said to the guys, let's drive to Sydney Meat Stock because I'm I want to chase this SCA thing. So we went to Sydney Meat Stock and ended up getting our first place golden ticket. So we're going back to Texas. So, we're over the moon. That's just obviously accomplished what we wanted to then. And then we came back and they had up in smoke in June then at the Weber Showgrounds, where we got another first place steak, which poised us pretty well. And then I took a solo trip up to Port Macquarie and had a few people help me out up there. So the Scotch and Smoke guys helped me out up there, and the Weber Kettle Club guys, Golly and whatever, supplied me with some cookers. And I think for Steve West so me and Steve were pretty much head and head with what already head and head, but either of us could have taken it. Steve had to come first and I had to not top 10. And Steve came first, but I got 5th place. So ended up walking away with the points. And was the Australian points champion. I won this beautiful ring that I can see it.
Yeah, he's just holding his SCA ring up to the camera for those listening.
Yeah, it's good. It was nice. Look, I've actually lost a bit of weight since then, and it's kind of a bit loose on the finger, and I might have to get it resized. But so then after that, we obviously flew to Texas not long after Port Macquarie, and obviously another international party, and then a welcome party. We got called on stage and crowned the Australian points champion, and then went the next day and cooked some steaks, which was pretty good. So I had 2 days of steak cooks that year. So the first day was 1 day of steak cooks, because I think it was about 115 teams. The next year it was 210 teams, I think. So what they did is they did it in 2 days. So you had your first day, which was your first round of steaks for everybody, and then the next day was the top. So there was three groups. The top 20 from each group then competed out for whoever was going to win. And they also had the Kickoff Classic, so the first steak cook-off for the year then as well. So those who didn't obviously place the day before could cook. I think they had 250 teams for the Kickoff Classic, so it was big. It was big. I don't know how they got that many judges there for it. It was like 2/10 of judges. So it was wild. I think last year they actually had 300 teams.
That's huge. That's so big.
Yeah.
So I take it that it's not done at Ken's house anymore then?
No. They actually had it at a big. So they used to have it at Billy Bob's in Fort Worth, which is a bit of a district off their main little sort of like a mall sort of area bit. But it's like they take a horse and cart down there, twice a day with all cowboys and that on it, and then around the corner, sort of where Billy Bob's was, it grew out of that, and they ended up moving it to Panther Island, which is like a big oval sort of setup that's down in the river. And then obviously, I think they moved it somewhere else from there. But when we went the second year, it was that long that they had golf carts going up and down all day, taking people's steak to the hand-ins. Like,
oh wow,
yeah, because they were so far away, they were like just jumping on a golf cart and to get their steak up in time, So. Yeah. It was wild. It was good. I would love to go back. The people over there are just so hospitable and always happy to give you tips. And I can even message your mates now and say, look, I'm trying something a bit different. Can you give me a bit of a rundown if you cook? They won't tell me absolutely everything, but they'll give me a bit of a tip here and there. I'm actually trying to get some stuff from a friend over there that he's been using. But postage is terrible, so I think I have to wait off for a bit at the moment with this coronavirus stuff going on. But
I think it took me. I think it took me 6 weeks to post a hoodie just to New Zealand.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah.
Well, I actually, because I live down here in McLaren Vale, I sort of helped out with someone who did a recipe book for down here, and I decided to give one to Brett and one to Michelle Dane from SCA, because they've been so helpful to me. And the postage over to send 2 books over there was like $85 or something. It was just ridiculous. So I'm like, you don't bother about sending me rubs. It was going to cost you, $80 for postage for a couple of containers. Like it's just not worth it. So, but like the way to get over there is anyone who wins a first place at SCA competition gets a golden ticket. If you've already got one, it rolls down the line to whoever will accept it. And then they also do the top 10 of every country or region. If you don't have a golden ticket, you get an invitation to the World Championship. So it's good. At the moment, I think we're sitting about 9th on the leaderboard. If there's some more comps, hopefully we can hold that, because it'd be nice to get another ticket for when it's open again. Obviously, I don't see anyone going there next year in 2021. So
no, I can't see that happening either.
I know they're still running their SCA comps over there, obviously socially distanced and whatever in their leaderboard, but they've pushed the World Championship from October out to March at this stage, I think. So.
Yeah. I think getting over there won't be the problem. I think getting home will be the problem.
You actually have to get permission, I think, to leave the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the moment. I'm pretty sure that's what my sister said. My sister lives in Singapore and she wants to come home, but I think she says too many hoops for a visit. She said there's too many hoops to go through to come back and leave. So, yeah, don't quote me on that, but I think that's what actually has to happen at the moment to actually get out of the country. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so how did you go in those cook-offs over there?
So the first year with TSJ, when it was like 115, I think we came 45th or 46th.
Wow.
Yeah. When we went as Smoke and Steel, because you cook it on cookers you haven't used before, and different charcoal and all sorts of bits and pieces. We had a bit of a bad day on the first day, so we didn't do too well. Craig Philpott from Suck Knuckle Smokers did all right and ended up cooking on the next day, and same with Russell McDougall from Moist. And then in the Kickoff Classic, when there was like 250 teams, I think we come about 80th. But, we were getting some 10s and whatever. Pretty much you need to get 10s the whole way through to be able to be in the top 20 even. It's such a fine margin, when you're there, unless you absolutely bomb it. The judging over there is definitely different to the judging here. And also, I think they're more experienced there, so they actually have dedicated SCA judges, and what these people do is they travel around and judge SCA. That's their hobby, So they've obviously done a lot more. Another thing I found as well is the beef is different and the beef tastes different. So with our rubs and whatever we use here in Australia, with what we do is we try and let the beef shine because our beef tastes fantastic. We're over there, you'll find guys are brining them in like brisket injection or whatever just to get more beefy flavour into the beef. And I think that's sort of maybe what made us sort of pop down the line a bit further, because we didn't have those tricks or think that we needed to do those things, because here you don't need to, it's quite different. Plus the steaks there are like this big compared to ours, which are about this big. So, cooking times obviously vary, and, trimming techniques as well. So, I haven't found lots of people left them nearly sort of whole, where here you'll find a lot of round steaks. People are trimming them down to round and stuff, which I personally don't like, but if it looks pretty for the judges, that's what they like here. So. Yeah,
you got to go for those appearance points when you can get them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But no, it's definitely a different ballpark over there. A way different ballpark, but it's still fun. Even if I didn't cook a steak, I'd still just go and hang out. It's just a great vibe.
Yeah. I was actually due to go compete in Little Rock, Arkansas, at an SCA there last time I was over there, and it unfortunately the competition got cancelled the morning of due to a tornado warning.
Well, Arkansas's got a bunch of beautiful people there too. Some of the good friends I've met over there are from Arkansas. They're definitely Southern country folk though, but they're absolutely lovely people. Drinking moonshine, and Joe Wilson lives there, and if you ever get a chance to meet him, he's a character. He holds the world squirrel cooking championship at his house every year.
I've heard of the squirrel cooking championships, but I haven't heard the gentleman's name. That's pretty wild.
That's Joe Wilson. Yeah. He goes to the SCA World Champions, and he's the MC, and he wears an American flag suit, and he's got his moustache tweaked out. And
I've seen photos. Yeah.
Yeah, absolute cracker of a man. He's an absolute great bloke. I still talk to him regularly. He's an absolute laugh to hang around with too. So
I thought you were going to tell me that he wears a suit made out of squirrel hide or something, or like a fur coat.
I'm pretty sure if he could sew enough together, he possibly might, or fashion a hat out of it. I might have to ask him if he's got one.
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty now, Dane, it's time for our lesson for the listeners and the viewers. So I thought that given that you are a two-time Australian representative steak cooker, I might just sort of throw it over to you and you can give us a bit of a rundown on how you like to do your SCA style competition steaks.
Yeah, well, what you need to do with an SCA steak is they judge it on appearance, doneness, texture, an overall impression. So you've really got to make sure you do something to sort of, and taste obviously, and you really make sure that you do stuff for each of those things they want. Overall impression, you can't really sort of do much about. You just got to hope that everything you've done sort of melds together. When it comes to appearance, I'll backtrack a bit. When you're picking a steak, they eat the spinalis or the rib cap, so the bit that's on the top, the marbled bit. The eye is purely what they look at for doneness and for appearance. So when you put the steak in the box, you want to have the rib cap pointing down, and they'll cut it in half and pull it apart, and then that's what they judge your doneness on, and then they only judge the top of the steak for appearance. So you got to make sure that obviously it looks pretty, it looks appetizing. Everyone uses grill grates. I use grill grates. I personally don't like the flavour from grill grates. I prefer, if I'm cooking a steak at home, I prefer just a nice
pan sear or something.
Pan sear, or just grilling straight over charcoal too, like that flavour. But you seem to really need the grill grates for appearance. There is a guy right now who's I've noticed on the SCA Facebook group who's been just doing him in a cast iron pan and get that whole beautiful crust, and he actually won a first place a couple of weeks ago. So maybe be something to play with. But what you want to do for appearance is you want to get your steak, you want to trim it up, get rid of any excess fat, any little tags or anything, sort of make the shape of it look kind of nice. Some people like to go for a round. I personally prefer more of an oval shape because it looks more like a steak. And then when they cut it in half, it doesn't just look like half a round, but I sort of learned that over there because they tend to try and leave them whole. That I saw. Some people do cut them round still, but you hear a lot of the judges over there talk about hockey pucks. So I don't want to eat a hockey puck. So they're round, it looks like a hockey puck. So what you would do is you would trim it, you can tie it off, make it a nice shape, and then obviously then you move on to the next step, which is you want to do something for tenderness. So you want to amp up the tenderness of the steak. So whether you do a salt brine, a liquid brine, you beat it with a mallet, you slap it on your forehead, you do something with it to try and make it more tender, or multiple things, I've got my method of things that I like to sort of do, which I won't give away 100%, but I tend to do a salt brine. I'd like to do a liquid brine, but I've tried it a few times and they tend to just fall apart too much when they're cooked, especially if you get the 3-eye steaks. So they're the ones that are sort of near the chuck end, which have the large spinalis, and then they've got like another little muscle here, then the eye next to it. You'll find that those ones tend to fall apart more I've found they fall apart more if you liquid brine them, even if you tie them off or whatever, because you've only got that small fat seam in them. Or if you get one with like the rib cap on the outside, that quite a thick fat on there, I don't think they'll fall apart quite as much. From then you want to move on to obviously seasoning for your taste. I tend to find that some people, when they first give it a go, they either over-season or under-season. It is hard to get that balance. We use 3 different rubs on our steak, which probably sounds a bit excessive, but we sort of get that balance, and layer the flavours on there. But, obviously, steak's easier to cook at home in practice. It's not like you got to season a brisket, cook it for 10 hours, and then hope at the end it's all right, and then you want to do another one. You can line up your steaks, you can do 4 steaks in a day and cook them at different stages and try different rubs and methods on them and compare them to sort of how you go. But you definitely want to make sure you got a balance of flavour. But you got to remember the judges only eat that much of your steak. Like, can't even show you like that much. Like a little square.
It's like a centimetre by a centimetre square.
If that, yeah. I haven't judged, but obviously from what I've been told and learned, if they're all there's 5 judges or 6 judges, they're only eating the spinalis, they're not getting much each, you know. And plus they got, you know, they might have 15 steaks, 20 steaks to eat on that day too, you know. So they've obviously got to pace themselves for that. And then you've got to think as well, they drink water between, but if they've had a salty steak beforehand, that can kind of wash out their palate as well, can't it? Or it's been a bit hot. So you got to make sure you kind of, I tend to pump up the salt a little bit, but not too much. But, you know, salt helps bring beefy flavours out, and I like a bit of salt, don't you know? Most people like salt. I don't use MSG. I don't know anyone who does, but I'm sure you could give it a go if you wanted to. But obviously, you know, they're looking at taste. For doneness, they want a warm pink centre, so they want it medium. I reverse sear. A lot of guys in Australia reverse sear. Most of the people in America just direct grill. They don't reverse sear. I think it's only maybe about 30%. I think from people that I've spoken to, probably reverse sear. Most of them just grill it. They just, you know, grilled for the marks, flip, grill, and either leave it until it's done, or they'll shelve it and have a probe in it until it's at the temperature they want. And generally people are looking for anywhere between 130 to 135, and then obviously the carry on and the rest will take it up to that warm pink centre. The judges actually have a sheet next to them which has the colour of they want, and then either side, and they actually have the points on how to mark them too. So, you know, it's not really leaving much for your own opinion. You know, it's either warm pink the whole way through, or it's not. And, you know, that does take a bit of skill and a bit of time, because, you know, to sort of master that and make sure you got that right. Because once they cut it, as you know, it oxidizes and it goes darker red, doesn't it? So you've got to kind of maybe try and allow for that as well a little bit. If you take it a little bit further, then it might oxidize, but then it might not. So, yeah. And then obviously, then the last thing for them to judge it on is overall impression. So, I you know, obviously, if it looks good, tastes good, you know, I've had 50 for appearance, 50 for doneness, you know, 40 something for taste, 40 something for texture, and then, like, you know, 48, and then 46 for overall impression. So I don't know if the bit they ate was overdone on the edge or whatever, or they've dropped you down. But that can obviously really hurt you sort of at the end of it. But yeah, but obviously, you know, it does come down to as well the steak that you select in the beginning. You know, you got to have an idea of what you want, and the way they select the steaks is you just pick a number out of the hat, and then you go from 1 to 20, and then they do reverse 20 to 1. I personally don't like getting first, because you walk up to that table and it's just full of steaks, and
too many to look
hard
at
to pick. Yeah, you know, and they're timing you, so you know you're going to get 30 seconds a minute or something to pick your steak. Otherwise, we'd be there all day. So I prefer to be down the sort of the end, but obviously beforehand, have an idea of what you're going to look for or what you want to cook. When you're practicing, go to your butcher and say, I want 28 millimetre thick steaks. That's what they use, is 28 millimetre, inch and 1/8 thick ribeyes, and tell them the part of the scotch you want to cut from as well. You know, if you want to be cooking, you know, the tri-hearts, get them to cut tri-hearts. If you want to do the ones that are sort of next to that with just a big spinalis on them, make sure you ask for those ones. So then when you practice, you can sort of get a bit of consistency there as well.
Yeah, right. Interesting stuff. I'm surprised that it's so exact as 28 millimeters.
Well, that's what they say the standard is. You can rock up to the comp and they can look like they've been cut with a hacksaw sometimes. You know, it depends on the supplier. Or, you know, like they let you flip the steaks over. But I've gone to a steak comp before, and there've been those black trays with the plastic. So you only see one side. There's a sticker over the top of it. How are you meant to pick a steak pin? You know, so yeah, there's all sorts. But you know, I've seen some pictures of some shockers over in America as well. But what they call for is an 1 and 1/8 standard, which is 28 millimeters. So if you work on that, you should be right. But I've gone and they've been thicker. One of the creek sides I think we went to, and they were like this thick of the steaks. And that really threw a lot of the people who direct grill out, because, you know, if you're doing a minute 45, a minute 45, a minute 45, and a minute 45, and then letting it carry on, if it's way more thicker, it's going to take a lot longer to get to that centre. And the problem is, if it's sitting there for ages on the grill grates when it's hot on that last turn, that that line will burn. So, your grill mark will burn. And then, as you know, when it's burnt, it turns bitter. And then if someone eats that bitter bit, they're going to mark you down for taste, aren't they? So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I got just one more question for you. I want to loop back to when you were talking about shaping it, and you said that you prefer a kind of an oval shape. Now, I've seen guys that like it in circles, and they're doing things like I've seen everything from like a double string line to some guys even using some like truck size radiator clamps and like clamping them down. Do you like to bind yours with either string or clamps and that to get that oval shape, or do you just kind of let it be natural?
I use string, or I make like a foil ring like for it, but I don't like cooking them round. I did in the beginning, as I thought that's what we needed to do, but after travelling over there and talking to the people and the judges over there, if you're cooking it here and you're planning on going there, I'd recommend doing whatever you're going to do over there here, so you're not changing something or part of your method, because obviously a steak that's this big round is going to cook differently to one that's this big round, isn't it? So it's going to change your time. Even if you're reverse searing, it's going to cook quicker. So your time is going to be out for your hand in, or they have a half an hour hand in window, but if you want to be handing in at the 15-minute onward bark, and your steaks, you don't know if you're going to be cooking it this big or this big. You kind of need to know what it's going in the smoker, otherwise it's going to be resting for 45 minutes, and then you're going to hand them in a cold steak. You've got to kind of juggle that. But for me personally, even in America, I saw them using hose clamps for it, and I was like, I don't know why these people are doing that. Everyone's told me not to do it. And if you go on their Facebook page and see pictures and stuff, you'll see comments from judges saying, or people saying, lose the hockey puck. It's like, so that's what made me steer away from the actual round. So I just use foil or string and just make it that sort of oval shape that I want. You can kind of fold the foil over till it's about that thick, and then I sort of wrap it around and just pin it back itself. And because as I said, we reverse sear. So once it's reverse seared, it's partially cooked pretty much. You're only searing for flavour and colour, so you just rip off that ring.
Yeah. So is that purely just an aesthetic then, that the judges don't like the circle? It's just purely the way it looks?
Over there is what I've been told. Here they obviously like it. People have been getting up with it, but I don't know. It's obviously just an aesthetic thing, So, but like for me, if I'm looking at it, I like them to be, when they cut it in half, you're going to have more of the steak that they're looking at and judging as, the steak than sort of half a moon and two, aren't they, for appearance? And they might think that looks a bit prettier. So.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. All right. Well, look, on that note, let's start to round out the episode. So I'm going to throw the studio over to you, my friend. Give some shout outs, give some thanks to whoever you think has helped you on the way, and tell everybody where they can track down yourself or Smoke and Steel on the internet.
Well, so where you can find me and Smoke and Steel. So myself, I've got my own Instagram, which I post all of my food, not just barbecue and whatever, which is thong_flippin_foodie. Because I like to wander around with thongs and eat food. You can find us at Smoke and Steel Barbecue on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find my helper Bacon Jesus Jesse. His Instagram is decoy_au. So that's where you can find us online. And also, if you're in South Australia, you can join the South Aussie Barbecue Group if you're not already on there. It's a pretty good resource for everyone. It's pretty friendly. As for shout outs, I'd like to give a shout out to Jesse Bacon Jesus. He's my barbecue life partner. He was my first friend I met through barbecue all those years ago by chance. I was smoking a brisket and I posted it on Facebook, and then a friend of mine was at a friend's house and she's like, well, I'm here, he's smoking a brisket. And then we just started chatting and became mates, and now we've travelled the country and, we've been to America together and all sorts, cooking barbecue. So, Bacon Jesus is a good bloke. Probably give a shout out to my family for all their help, so I can travel around looking after kids and whatever. My dad, who's my dish bitch, he comes to some of the comps and rocks out his mullet and does my dishes and sort of helps out. People who've come around have probably seen, I've spoken to my dad a few times. He's a bit of a character. He'll be 65 in a couple of weeks and he still likes coming out. He came to Texas with us as well and travelled around US with us and had a bit of fun. And then also people that have helped me along the way, Brett from Lanes and the Lanes crew, they've been great supporters, and I've been doing a fair bit of work with them since pretty much the beginning. Russ from Natural Smoke gives us the wood and helps us out with, obviously the flavour profiles and new products and wood that we like to use. Abel from Clean Heat. Most people out there know who Abel is. He's still in South Africa at the moment, and I spoke to him the other week. He's just obviously dealing with the situation there and whatever, but he's been fantastic since day dot. Ellis Butchers here in McLaren Vale, they were obviously the sponsors of TSJ, and obviously moved on and helped with myself. They were one of the leaders in the beginning of getting stuff in, like 2014, I walked in and said, "Can I get brisket?" And he pulled out this flat little thing, and I was like, "No." And then I said, Cape Grim and whatever is what I've been seeing online. And he said, the truck's got Cape Grim on it. I'll ask him in the morning. And next thing I know, he got me in a box of Cape Grim beef ribs and some briskets and whatever. And we forged a friendship, and we've been doing that, been going there ever since. So, shout out to Ellis and Ian and Rian, the guys down there. And then finally, just all the guys in South Australia, South Aussie Barbecue. Everyone on the page, and Kyle and Jason and the guys there to help run it and help keep it in track, and everyone who inputs and makes it worth sort of, commenting and posting cooks. And, I've been writing some tutorials over the last few years and putting in the files, and people, helping people find them and cook on their way and sort of get started on their own little barbecue journey. We've gone from 600 people in 3-4 years. I think we're nearly 9,700 or something.
Just a touch under 10,000. I was just looking before we started, yeah. Yeah.
And also shout out to all my Melbourne mates that, the barbecue guys that, Dave Linton and Gravenall and Boomer and those guys, that help me push and do stuff a bit different. And Ross from Firehouse, he's come over here and stayed at my house a few times and come and cooked with us. So, it's all fun. I've made friends all around the world that, I could sit here for 2 hours saying thanks to people and shout out. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. So good. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today. I know that you're in the middle of a house renovation, so I do appreciate you taking some time out on the weekend to have a bit of a chat and talk barbecue with me.
Thanks for having me. It's been good.
And there you have it, family. That was Dane Cowan from Smoke and Steel. How good is that guy? He's so much fun to talk to, and he knows a hell of a lot about barbecue. He's represented Australia twice for the SCA in steak cooking, and we had that awesome lesson at the end about how to do your SCA-style steaks. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like I need to run down the butcher shop as soon as I hit the stop button on this recording, go pick up a couple of steaks and go light up some charcoal and have a bit of a crack at it myself. Really looking forward to the next time I can get into that. Now, before I let you go, just a quick reminder, huge shout out and thanks to Jagged for being our podcast partner for this episode. If you are looking for your next smoker, barbecue, grill, asado, parrilla, or you got a custom job that you need done, maybe you're looking at opening up a barbecue joint or building a barbecue trailer, you need something custom done, Glenn does love a challenge, and there's nothing that man can't do with a welder. So do hit them up, Jagged Wood Fired, JAGRD, and do check them out. Also, if you are at the start of your barbecue journey, we do have the Beginner's Guide to Real Barbecue available on the Smoking Hot Confessions website. That's smokinghotconfessions.com. Just head over there, have a bit of a click around, bit of a scroll around. Pop-up is going to appear, pop your details in, and we'll pop it out into your inbox. And do come join us on the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community on Facebook. And do also check out Dane's group as well, the South Aussie Barbecue group there as well. It's a great group. They both are. They're both really nice little corners of the internet carved out there just for barbecue. And the last one is, if you are watching this on YouTube, just a quick reminder, give us the thumbs up, the subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Facebook, give us a like and a share. Put any questions you got for either me or Dane into the comments. And if you're if you're watching on IGTV, give us the heart and the follow and the 5-star rating and review if you are listening on a podcast app. All of those things help us a hell of a lot, and we do really appreciate it here at Smoking Hot Confessions. And that is a wrap for today. That's all the time we got. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.